A widely repeated piece of culinary folklore claims that Genghis Khan's Mongol warriors invented the prototype for the hamburger. The story suggests that during long campaigns, riders placed raw slabs of meat under their saddles to tenderize them through constant friction and heat. Historical accounts indicate these riders used raw meat as a medicinal poultice to heal horse sores. Impregnated with horse sweat and dirt by the end of a day's ride, the meat served a veterinary purpose, rendering it completely inedible. The documented lineage of the beef patty leads away from the Mongolian steppe and toward a much more clinical setting, the battlefields of the American Civil War. In the 1860s, Dr. James Henry Salisbury observed that Union soldiers were dying in catastrophic numbers, not from combat, but from dysentery caused by poor camp diets. Salisbury developed a radical medical theory. He believed the human digestive tract was designed to process meat, and that starches and vegetables fermented in the gut to produce toxins. His specific prescription to cure bowel disease was the muscle pulp of beef. He instructed that beef be stripped of all fat and connective tissue, then minced by hand into a lean, loose cake and broiled. This strict Victorian medical remedy, initially intended to be eaten without bread, provided the structural foundation for what would become a greasy, bread-heavy staple of American fast food. To find the raw materials that Salisbury would eventually champion, we have to look to the 19th century port of Hamburg, Germany. The Hanseatic League shipping industry required durable rations that could survive months at sea without refrigeration. Sailors adopted a preservation method involving mincing beef, salting it heavily, and smoking it. The resulting Hamburg steak was a hard, durable slab of meat optimized for shelf life over flavor. When waves of German immigrants began crossing the Atlantic on the Hamburg America Line steamships, they brought these durable minced meat rations with them. Upon arrival, dockside food stands in New York and Boston began serving steak cooked in the Hamburg style to cater to the new arrivals and homesick sailors. This nautical trade established a massive supply chain for cheap, minced beef in American port cities. By the time Dr. Salisbury began his clinical trials, the Hamburg steak had already provided the industrial-scale raw material for his medicalized muscle pulp. The spread of minced beef across the United States was accelerated by a new technological catalyst, the mechanical meat grinder. Faster, more energetic. This machine shifted minced beef from a labor-intensive specialty to a mass-produced commodity, allowing vendors to process cuts into uniform portions at high volume. This massive technological shift occurred right alongside the American Industrial Revolution, which was rapidly creating a new urban working class. Factory workers needed dense, cheap calories they could consume quickly. Because they were often eating while standing or walking to their next shift, the traditional plated steak was no longer practical. The solution emerged at county fairs and mobile lunch carts. Vendors sold hot Hamburg steaks, but they were difficult to eat on the move. Cooks like Charlie Negreen and Fletcher Davis addressed the portability issue by smashing the popular beef patty between two slices of bread. The bun functioned as an ergonomic delivery system. It was a logistical invention driven by the constraints of a fast-moving industrial workforce that needed to eat without stopping. The identity of the dish was forced to change again when World War I triggered intense anti-German sentiment across the United States. This political pressure triggered a rebranding that split the dish into two distinct categories based on how it was served. The formal plated version served with gravy was renamed Salisbury steak, using the doctor's name to provide a patriotic, American-sounding alternative to the German city. However, the handheld sandwich version was already so integrated into working-class life that the hamburger name proved impossible to replace, despite attempts to rename them Liberty sandwiches. The hamburger gained national recognition at massive cultural events like the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair, where it was showcased as a modern innovation for the masses. The modern hamburger remains a record of its own evolution, stacking together 19th century maritime trade, Victorian medical theory, and the ergonomic demands of the industrial era into a single meal. Try skipping the drive-thru today. Find a quality cut of beef, mince it yourself, and prepare an 1800s-style Hamburg steak to experience the original medical cure that reshaped the American diet.
Subscribe to us for more such videos.